This is the first installment of a brand new series called Breaking the Code. We're going to take great drummers, bands, and musicians, look at what they played, why they played it, how they played it, and see how we can apply that to our own playing.
What happens when one of the world's most in-demand session studio drummers decides to start his own rock band? That's exactly what happened with Jeff Porcaro and Toto. Here's the funny thing about Toto. Everyone told Jeff and all the other band members they were idiots to do this. They were all prolific session players, writers, and musicians. To me, if I've got a bunch of buddies that are cutting hit records for other people, I'm thinking, hey, maybe we should start a band. But at the time, being a session musician was such a hard thing to achieve, and so once you got on the inside, you didn't want to be put on the outs. But they took the chance, and the world's better for it. We're about to look at Toto through the lens of Jeff Porcaro, their drummer. If you wait around till the last one, a little bit of controversy around what is actually played on the recording and what drummers think is being played. As always, I'm not Jeff Porcaro, but I'm gonna do my best to represent his grooves. Leading off at number 10 from the album Toto 4 is the beat for the song Africa. I love playing this groove at gigs. This was actually Toto's first #1 hit, and Jeff was trying to recreate the feel that he got whenever he went to, I believe it was a World's Fair when he was younger, and he saw an African drum ensemble playing together. So everyone playing separate parts that were the same, very repetitive, but it made this groove that was just so deep. So this track, you actually hear a ton of percussion. So they've got congas, I've got it written down here, they've got bongos, jingle sticks, they did sleigh bells, multiple takes of shakers, tambourines, gongs, a bass marimba. I believe it was played by his father, Joe Porcaro. Obviously, I'm not gonna demonstrate all of that. I'm gonna demonstrate the underlying drum groove, which has somewhat of a samba type of a bass drum pattern. Coming in at number 9 is one of my favorite Jeff Porcaro grooves. This song itself never really had huge success, but fans of Jeff's always loved it because of its deep pocket. Off the self-titled album Toto, it's Georgy, Porgy. It was released as a single, but it only hit number 48 on the charts. Porcaro said in the book It's About Time, this was actually him trying to imitate Freddie and Maurice White from the band Earth, Wind & Fire. His influences for the groove, I don't want to get this wrong, were Paul Humphrey, James Gadson, Ed Green, and Earl Palmer. Interesting enough, he actually said in an interview that he played this almost exact groove on the Boz Scaggs tune Low Down, and it feels every bit just as good. It's a very signature 16th note type of a hi-hat feel for Jeff, and he says he openly says he stole this from his influences that I cited earlier. He just hoped that he laid the beat a little bit differently than they did. Coming in at number 8, another one off the album Toto 4 is Waiting for Your Love. The song was originally called You Got Me, and it hit number 73 on the Billboard Hot 100. I included this one because it's an example of his incredibly infectious and danceable groove. As always, the sheet music of all of these drum beats is available. It's in a pinned comment as well as the video description. Number 7, off the Fahrenheit album, it's the groove for I'll Be Over You. I took a sample of the groove from about the 1-minute 32-second mark. This song reached number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. It also spent 2 weeks at number 1 on the adult contemporary charts. And you're like, Steven, that's a ballad. Exactly, that's why I included it. Jeff was such a phenomenal player, and he was such a renowned session player. He played on tons of ballads, and his playing was incredible and gave the song exactly what it needed, whether he gave it lots of space or he added a little bit more to it, and this is a perfect example of that. Swinging in at number 6, I've actually taught this groove before on this channel. It's off the album The Seventh One, and it's one of my favorite Jeff grooves. It's from Mushanga. Jeff quoted many times that this was one of his favorite tracks from that album, and he came in and wanted to do something different, something out of the ordinary for him. So he didn't just want to play the same things that he was always playing on albums. He didn't want to hear the song in a couple of months and realize that he had stole it from another drummer from some other place, or that he had inadvertently heard that somewhere in the past and had taken that from that moment and put it on the song. Here's a little insider information. We always think that session players are like, these guys are just these gods, that we can never touch them. Jeff said that he actually barely was hanging on to this groove and remembering the sticking. He had just come up with it, and he actually wished that he could have recut it a couple months after. Okay, now here's the controversy that in the comments I'm sure you're gonna flame me for, but look, there is a video of Jeff demonstrating this drum groove. Here's the thing though, he recorded it after he just came up with it. Later he had time to mess with it and come up with variations, add things like the hi-hat on the foot, add some other variations, some other sounds. When he demonstrates it in the video that I'm sure many of you will talk about in the comments. He also demonstrates Rosanna on that one, and he demonstrates it a little bit differently than the album. When he demonstrates this, he demonstrates it with all of the variations in there, but you gotta remember, when he recorded it, he had just come up with it, and he quoted, man, I was just hanging on to it, right? So, what you're seeing in that demonstration is actually variations he came up with, rim clicks, moving it around the toms, adding some other things after the fact of recording it. What I'm gonna demonstrate, and actually I'm gonna demonstrate it from my old studio because I have a clip of me playing that, I'm gonna demonstrate what is actually on the album. If you haven't checked it out yet, I've got a 14-day free trial going on in my online drum school, the Drum Better Daily program at stevensdrumshed.com. The link for that is in the video description as well. Number 5, off the same album, the 7th one, we got the good old lady, Pamela. It was the first US single off that album, and it actually peaked at number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100. This was actually their final US hit to date, and this is a very, very typical hi-hat pattern drum groove that you'll find Jeff playing on many of his sessions that he did for other people as well. Number 4, off their self-titled album, Toto, it's none other than Hold the Line. This was actually Toto's first single, and it reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Jeff was very specific about his influences, and he could usually trace his parts back to exactly where he was influenced. And he said this was him trying to play like Sly Stone's original drummer. He was very specific with which drummer. Greg Errico. Greg Errico played on Hot Fun in the Summertime, and if you'll go listen to that, it has a very similar feel to Hold the Line. This next one at number 3 I had to include. I just love the feel of it, and it really wasn't a hit early on. I believe it was left off the albums, and it was later put on their album, was Past to Present, 1977 to 1990. And it's the song, Can You Hear What I'm Saying? This is an amazing example of the chemistry between Mike and Jeff Porcaro. Mike was a bass player. They had an amazing pocket when playing together. It features the bass heavily on the bass is just about this song, but I don't know, maybe this feel couldn't be achieved by anybody but brothers. Number 2, off their self-titled album, Toto, it's the groove from St. George and the Dragon. Now, I had to include this because this is an awesome example of just a straight-ahead cowbell groove, with the cowbell being very, very prominent. It was also one of the band's first forays into the prog rock genre, and it really came from their being influenced by bands of the time like Yes and Genesis. The beat coming in at number 1, and some of you are nervous, you're like, is it gonna include this? How can this be complete without it? It's from the Toto 4 album, and it's Rosanna. Now, when he came in, they suggested and said they were hearing a Bo Diddley type of a groove, which has a doom, 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 doom type of a feel to it, but Jeff said, no, here's what I'm hearing. The band and Jeff had been listening to Bernard Purdie, the drummer who's famously known for his halftime shuffle on the song Babylon Sisters, and that's off of, that's a Steely Dan tune, as well as Bonham on Fool in the Rain. What Jeff wanted to do was take the Bernard Purdie version and the Bonham version and then stick himself in between those and make his own version of this iconic groove. Get this, the song was cut over a chorus of 9 months. They would record a part, come back to it, record the horns, come back to it, record the keys, come back to it. Went to number 2 on the Billboard charts. And here's the controversy that as a teacher I've dealt with for years, and I just kind of want to explain this. Listen to the recording of Rosanna. You can find it's isolated drums at the top. It's very clear to hear what he is playing. There's also a video, the same video I believe that he demonstrates Mushanga. He demonstrates the halftime shuffle. He demonstrates the Bernard Purdie version, he demonstrates the Bonham version, and then he demonstrates what he played on Rosanna. Now here's the thing, the demonstration he gives on there is not what you hear at the beginning of Rosanna. The beginning of Rosanna does not have that many ghost notes. You can argue with me if you want, but this transcription has been checked by 3 different drummers, and I've talked to multiple drummers about this. Many times a song will be cut, and then later down the road, they will begin morphing that beat. Now, at the beginning of Rosanna, you can hear not that many ghost notes. As a matter of fact, there's not many at all. As he moves through the song, you can hear the groove begin to morph a little bit, and he adds in more ghost notes. I just want to be clear, the transcription that I have had done has what is played at the beginning of the song. So before you go flaming in the comments that is not what Jeff demonstrated, I am very clear on what Jeff demonstrated, and what you hear at the beginning of Rosanna is not actually what he demonstrated, although what he demonstrated is a great version of that, and I'm sure that's how he played it live. I just do want to reemphasize, he adds ghost notes as the song goes, and it's cool to me that you can hear him kind of settle into that and begin to morph that.